We've got another question. We've got quite a few good questions tonight. We should get to as many as we can. This one's from Hayden Champion Silver. Hayden.
Hey guys, so I'm 21 years old. Last year, November, I became homeless due to some traumatic experiences at home. And I come from the Melbourne's west side, so Melton to be specific. When I did become homeless, I had to move away from that area, approximately 40 kilometres away, when Hope Street Youth and Family Services found me crisis accommodation. Now, my question to you guys is, why are youth homelessness services not more available in growth corridors around Australia, despite these areas having some of the highest cases and highest rates of domestic violence and youth homelessness?
Rebecca, start with you.
Thank you for your question, Hayden, and I'm very sorry that you have experienced homelessness. And we know that young people are the largest group of homeless across Australia, and it's growing significantly. Before I was a Member of Parliament, I had the great privilege of working in the youth sector, and we actually were the base for services for young people who were seeking emergency services, who were homeless, as well as employment services and education services. I agree with you. In South Australia, there is a central pooling, and then there's different organisations that are responsible for different regions. I'm not sure what that is in Victoria, but I think that works quite well, because we recognise that in regional areas, I mean, Mayo has a higher rate of homelessness than the national average. So in regional areas, young people are homeless. It's not just a metro thing, and there's an extra layer of isolation if you are homeless in a regional area. So,
were you surprised to see the new Minister for Homelessness say, oh, we need to put a positive spin on this issue? It's really just a tiny, tiny percentage of the population, so let's think about it in a more positive light.
Well, I'll give Luke the benefit of the doubt, and I'd be very happy. I'd be very happy to sit down and chat with him about the experiences that I had, and one of the great tragedies is that in 2014 we had a rolling back of the NRAS, which was the National Rental Affordability Scheme. Now, for the organisation I worked for, that allowed us, when that scheme was around, which was a Labor program, it allowed us to go from having 7 units to support young people in transitional housing, to support you with low-income rent and get you on your feet, because it's about getting people on their feet and then getting you into a job or back into education, and we were able to extend that during that time to 39. So we were able to help a lot more young people over a year. With the ending of that program, I think we're seeing a lack of building of social housing, and that was a great program to have. And it wasn't, government contributed a small amount, Jim, but not a lot, and it was really about getting the private sector and non-government organisations to be able to have some skin in the game. I'd love to see in this Parliament some more funding, some kind of second version of NRAS, which would be something I'll certainly be lobbying Luke and other ministers. But I take your point in relation to ensuring that there's services in regional areas, and I'd be really happy to follow up and see what's in Victoria.
Sammy, Melbourne broadcaster, so I'm going to give the next answer to you. Go ahead.
Honestly, the amount of homelessness I saw in Melbourne when I first moved here took me aback. I came here 2015 from WA, and we've been seeing a bit of an increase in homelessness over there. But the sheer numbers in the city of Melbourne, in and around the CBD and the outer suburbs as well, was astonishing and quite depressing, given the fact that we are a country that has had a growth economy for a longer period than most of the rest of the world. Record numbers, in fact, at one point. The new homelessness minister's statement was. It was one of those things where it shows you the disconnect he has from the problem, given the fact that at one point he even said that the amount of homelessness we've got is commensurate with the population increase, whereas that's not true at all. The amount of homelessness has increased by 14% between the last 2 censuses. Population increase was 8.8%. So right there you can see that there is a crisis.
Well, let's quickly go. I'll come back to you. Let's just quickly go back to Hayden, our questioner. Hayden, you've left home or forced to leave home because of a domestic violence situation, as I understand it. What would you say to a minister who says you've got to put a positive spin on the issue?
You can't. There's nothing positive about being homeless. There's not a single thing I could think of when I was homeless that was positive.
Okay, Linda.
It must have been terrifying, Hayden. Absolutely terrifying. It is hard to understand in a nation like this nation, with the wealth that we have, that there is homelessness. A lot of it we can see, a lot of it we don't see. It's young people sleeping on couches. And many of us have had experiences like yours. I had a homeless family with me for 6 months, good people, but with 3 young children, just could not find somewhere affordable to live. I think that that it really is a responsibility, as Rebecca said, of government, developers, and the business community and community housing providers to look at how you can leverage more funding to be able to build more units. We need more places for people to live, and not just crisis accommodation. We need places. If you haven't got an address, you can't keep a job, it's hard to go to school, all the things that you're nodding to, and I know that you understand very, very much. Labor took to the election a second version of NRAS and 250,000 new housing units. We lost the election, but we would love the government to actually have a look at that and realise that this is one of the biggest social issues facing us. Just to finish up, young people escaping domestic violence and women and children, older women who are entering an age of their life where they should have comfort and they're homeless, and of course we have the issue of youth, as you're talking about.
Toby, you've put a lot of positive spin on some interesting issues in your career. Homelessness, could you possibly do that?
I think the jingle would be pretty hard. To your point, Hayden, To your point, Hayden, Melton is one of those areas which has quite a high degree of ice usage. It's got some domestic violence out there, quite high domestic violence stats. And your question was, should we put resources out in those places where the problems exist? I think that makes eminent good sense. I can't see why we wouldn't. It's cheaper, it's better for people, it's probably a stronger long-term solution. So, yes, I agree with your proposition.
Jim?
The only comment that I'd make, Hayden, is that I certainly understand the issue. I've seen it with people who are your age and not much older. I've certainly seen it amongst, to mention them again, the veteran community, and it's been a significant problem. A lot of that has been addressed by the RSL, by a non-government organisation, by people contributing themselves to it. I've seen it only in a little bit in the privileged city that I live near, which is Canberra. I live in a rural area, and I'm sure it's there. It's just not as visible, I think, as Sammy was saying. But it would be great to do something about it. Again, there is only so much to go across, and that's New Start, pensions, homelessness and housing now we've got. It'd be great to throw money at them all.
Okay, we'll move on, and thanks for keeping us on our toes, Hayden.